The blood on his shirt wasn't his. The broken nose, the swelling jaw, the split lip, all delivered before anyone asked for his name. They said he fit the profile. That was enough. His pregnant wife screamed for help. No one listened. 3 officers. No warrant. No charges. Just fists. And when they found out who he really was, it was already too late. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. Step back from the door. Hands where we can see them. The voice boomed through the wood. Malcolm Hayes froze. He had just come back from the grocery store, 2 bags still in his hands. His wife, Tasha, 8 months pregnant, was resting on the couch inside. It was 7:12 p.m. He turned toward the door, confused, hearing boots stomping up the porch. Before he could reach the knob, the door burst open with a thunderous crash. On the ground, now, 3 men in tactical vests stormed in. No badge displayed. No questions asked. Just rage. "This is my house," Malcolm shouted, instinctively raising his hands. "What is going on?" One of the officers slammed him against the hallway wall. The grocery bags tore open, oranges bouncing across the floor like marbles. Tasha screamed from the living room. "Malcolm? What's happening?" But they weren't listening. One officer twisted Malcolm's arm behind his back, another kneed him in the ribs. The third one aimed his gun at Tasha, shouting, "Stay down, ma'am. Stay where you are. I'm pregnant," she cried. He didn't do anything. "Please, stop." Malcolm struggled to breathe. "You've got the wrong person. My name is Malcolm Hayes. This is my house." "Shut up," barked the officer cuffing him. "We got a tip. You match the description." "What description?" he gasped. They didn't answer. The handcuffs clicked shut. One of them yanked Malcolm by the shirt, dragging him across the floor like garbage. The whole time, no Miranda rights. No charges. No explanation. The neighbors watched from their porches as Malcolm, bloodied and limp, was shoved into the back of a squad car. Tasha tried to follow, barefoot in the street. "Where are you taking my husband?" "He didn't do anything." The youngest officer turned toward her, face blank. "He'll be processed. Stay home." Then they drove off. At the precinct, Malcolm sat handcuffed in a cold chair. No phone call. No lawyer. A sergeant walked in with a file. "What's your name again?" "Malcolm Hayes," he said through swollen lips. The sergeant flipped through the file, then paused. His brow furrowed. "You live at 426 Mayfield?" Malcolm nodded, his breath shaking. The sergeant closed the folder. This might be a mistake. But Malcolm didn't respond. His left eye was already swollen shut. Malcolm sat in holding for nearly 4 hours. No phone call. No food. Just a concrete bench and a flickering fluorescent light above. Every few minutes, a different officer walked by. None of them made eye contact. Across from him, another man sat silently. A teenager, maybe 16. His lip was bleeding. His hands were shaking. Malcolm leaned forward, whispered, "What did they get you for?" The boy didn't answer, just stared at the wall. A door opened. A new officer stepped inside, tall, square-shouldered, and pale. He held a clipboard in one hand and a coffee in the other. He glanced at Malcolm. Then again. He frowned. "You Hayes?" Malcolm stood slowly. "Yeah." The officer walked closer, looked him up and down like he was a broken object. "You're not Jerome Booker." Malcolm blinked. "Who?" The officer turned to the wall, checked a sheet, then exhaled through his nose. "We got a bad ID." Malcolm's heart thumped. "So I can go?" The officer didn't answer. "Sit tight," he muttered and walked out. Another hour passed. Finally, 2 detectives entered. One was older, with a gray beard and a tired face. The other, younger, full of that dangerous confidence. They pulled chairs across from Malcolm and sat down. "Mr. Hayes," the older one began, opening a folder. "You were taken into custody as part of an ongoing investigation." "I didn't do anything," Malcolm said calmly. "You came into my house. You put your knee in my back in front of my pregnant wife. And I still don't know why." The younger detective leaned forward. "Calm down, sir. We're trying to help." "Help?" Malcolm scoffed. "Where was that when I was face down in my own hallway?" Neither detective answered. The older one cleared his throat. "The individual we were looking for was last seen on your street. Similar build. Similar clothing. And someone called it in. That's all it takes?" Malcolm said. "Similar build. That's the bar now." The room was silent. The younger detective tapped the folder. "You don't have a record? No priors? No warrants?" Malcolm raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, I know." The older man shifted. "We're going to recommend release. But there'll be paperwork." You'll need to sign a statement acknowledging the events and waiving any escalation. Escalation? Internal affairs. Complaints. Lawsuits. Malcolm stared at them. You mean, you want me to forget this ever happened? The younger one leaned back. We're offering a clean exit. Mistakes happen. But nobody's hurt, right? Malcolm's jaw tightened. He touched his lip. It was still bleeding. He didn't answer. Because deep down, he knew something else was coming. And this was just the beginning. Tasha sat in a stiff plastic chair outside the precinct lobby. It was nearly midnight. Her hands trembled over her belly. The baby kicked. She had called 3 times. No one gave her answers. Finally, a young female officer came to the window. I'm looking for my husband, Tasha said, voice tight. Malcolm Hayes. They took him from our house 6 hours ago. The officer tapped the keyboard, eyes scanning the screen. He's in processing. Not released yet. Is he okay? Ma'am, I don't have that information. Tasha's throat closed. She clenched her jaw, nodded, stepped back from the window. And then she saw him. Down the hallway, through the glass. Malcolm. His shirt stained with dried blood. His eye purple. Lip split. Limping. Oh my God. She ran toward the door. Ma'am, you can't. She pushed through before they could stop her. Malcolm saw her and stopped. He didn't speak. Didn't blink. He just looked at her like a ghost. Baby, what did they do to you? She whispered. The officer beside him stepped in. Ma'am, he's being released. Please wait outside. Malcolm shook his head. No, I'm done listening. She's staying. The officer hesitated. Malcolm turned to him, voice low. If you touch her, I swear her. That's enough, Mr. Hayes, the officer said quickly. Let's get this over with. They shoved a stack of paperwork in front of him. A pen. A clipboard. Malcolm scanned the top sheet. No charges filed. Detention based on mistaken identity. He flipped to the last page. Waives right to pursue legal action. He stopped. What is this? Standard release form, the clerk mumbled. Malcolm looked at Tasha. She was staring at the paper, then at his face, then back again. You're not signing that, she said. If I don't, they'll hold me. Let them. You didn't do anything. Malcolm exhaled, slow. His hand hovered over the signature line, then dropped the pen. I want a supervisor. I want body cam footage. And I want every name of every officer who entered my home. The room went still. The officer's smile vanished. You sure about that? Malcolm stared at him. I wasn't before. I am now. The officer looked to the clerk, then back at Malcolm. You want war, Mr. Hayes? Malcolm didn't blink. No, I want the truth. But even he didn't know just how deep the lies went. The next morning, Malcolm returned to the precinct with Tasha by his side. He wore sunglasses to hide the bruises, but nothing could mask the weight in his eyes. They sat across from a lieutenant, sharp suit, tight smile, empty eyes. You're requesting footage, Mr. Hayes? Yes. Body cams. Patrol car dash. Home entry. Everything. The lieutenant tapped his pen. That footage isn't available. Malcolm leaned forward. What do you mean? The officers involved weren't wearing body cams that evening. Silence. All 3? The lieutenant nodded. That's correct. Malcolm blinked. His jaw locked. Then I want the report. The dispatch record. The tip that sent them to my house. The lieutenant shifted. That's under internal review. By who? Internal affairs. Then I want their contact. The lieutenant paused. We don't give that out directly. Malcolm stared at him. The officer held his gaze, unbothered. Tasha spoke for the first time. Can we at least know the names of the officers? The lieutenant reached into a drawer and slid a printout across the desk. 3 names. No photos. No ranks. No titles. That's all we're authorized to release. Malcolm picked up the sheet. Read the names. Memorized them. Then stood. I'll find the rest myself. The lieutenant offered a tight smile. Mr. Hayes, I know you're upset, but I suggest you move on. Mistakes happen. We all want to put this behind us. Malcolm exhaled through his nose. The only people who want this behind them are the ones who caused it. Outside, the air was dry and hot. Tasha walked in silence. What now? She finally asked. Malcolm didn't answer right away. I go back to work Monday. You're not ready. I don't have a choice. She stopped. Malcolm, don't do this. Don't pretend like this didn't happen. He turned to her, his voice low. I'm not pretending. I'm surviving. But something had shifted in his voice. Not anger. Not pain. Calculation. That night, he sat in their small office, pulled out a laptop, Logged in. One by one, he typed in the names. Cross-referenced precinct records. Social media. Local court dockets. By midnight, he had details. One of the officers had 2 past complaints. One for excessive force. Closed without follow-up. Another had transferred precincts 3 times in 5 years. The third didn't exist in any public database. He stared at the screen. And for the first time since the attack, he smiled. Monday morning, Malcolm walked into his office building like nothing had happened. Pressed shirt. Fresh shave. Smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was a systems analyst at a private security contractor, mostly software diagnostics, surveillance audits, employee clearance. No one asked about the bruises, but they looked. His manager, Greg, nodded awkwardly when they crossed paths. Good weekend? Malcolm stared at him. Uneventful. He sat at his desk, turned on his monitor, logged in. By noon, he had located 3 restricted databases connected to internal law enforcement systems. He wasn't supposed to have access, but no one in the office ever questioned him, because no one thought he'd do anything wrong. By 3 p.m., he found what he needed. The third officer, the one with no online presence, was real. Daniel Croft, tasked to a multi-agency neighborhood enforcement unit. Not LAPD, not sheriff. Federal crossover. Malcolm leaned back in his chair. So that's why there were no body cams. No report leaks. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a cover. At 5:22 p.m., he left the office, took a different route home, parked in a lot behind a coffee shop and sat with the engine off, and waited. At 5:47, a black SUV pulled into the spot across from him. He didn't move. Inside, a man sat alone. Dark suit. Blank face. Malcolm stared at him for 5 seconds, then started his engine and left. When he got home, Tasha was in the kitchen. The TV was off. Her eyes were red. You were followed today, she said without turning around. Malcolm paused. How do you know? The same car circled our block 3 times. He nodded once, then walked to the sink and washed his hands. You're scaring me, she whispered. I know. What are you doing? Something I should have done a long time ago. That night, Malcolm pulled out an old lockbox from the closet. Inside were files, certifications, IDs, and one sealed envelope. He opened it. Inside, a letter of federal clearance. Malcolm Hayes wasn't just a systems analyst. He used to run cyber audit for a Justice Department internal review program. The badge expired 5 years ago, but the access? Still valid. And now he was ready to use it. By Tuesday morning, Malcolm had compiled a full dossier. Each officer, each incident, each disciplinary review quietly closed. He wasn't guessing anymore. These weren't random men in uniforms. They were part of a selective task unit operating with immunity under a federal local contract, written for urban pacification support. He clicked deeper. There it was. Codename, Halberd, 9. Jurisdictional exception. No civilian complaint system. Internal review only by encrypted committee ID. Malcolm stared at the screen. He whispered under his breath. So that's why they don't need to apologize. He spent hours cross-referencing the street patrol logs with civilian footage. He found a pattern. Each mistaken identity stop happened on blocks with high-density minority housing. And each one ended in violence. No arrests. No charges. Just bodies. Tasha knocked softly on the door. You haven't eaten. He turned. I'm working. She stepped inside. You said you weren't going to pull these files again. I didn't plan to. Then why? He looked at her, face unreadable. Because I wasn't the first. And I won't be the last. Tasha leaned on the doorframe. We could still leave. Move out of the city. Take the baby somewhere quiet. Malcolm exhaled. There's nowhere quiet for people like us. Only places where the noise is harder to hear. That night, he encrypted a document and sent it to a private cloud account. Then deleted the trail. At 2 a.m., he received an email from a blocked sender. We know what you accessed. No greeting. No name. Just one attachment. A still image from his home's front security camera. From that morning, a man in a hoodie, looking into their window. Malcolm stared at it for a long time. Then copied the image. Stored it offline. He looked over at the bedroom, where Tasha was finally asleep. He typed one line into the empty body of a reply. I know who you are too. Then hit send. And powered the laptop down. The war had just gone silent. Wednesday, 6:34 a.m. Malcolm stood in front of a locked server room at his office. He held a maintenance badge, forged from the one he used years ago in DOJ audit work. It looked real. Scanned real. No one would question it. Inside, he connected a private terminal. From a secure drive, he uploaded a data spider, slow, undetectable, targeting one thing only. Internal halberd, 9 communications. By 7:12 a.m., he had 24 encrypted chains. By 8 o'clock, he had what he came for. Messages between field leaders. Names, dates, targets, including his. Malcolm Hayes, potential asset leak. Surveillance recommended. If contact persists, apply escalation Tier B. He didn't know what Tier B meant, but it didn't matter. He'd already backed up the files and hidden 3 physical copies. One at a library locker downtown, one at a self-storage unit under a fake name, and one buried in a sealed envelope behind the drywall of his daughter's future nursery. He wasn't planning to run, but if something happened to him, the truth would still move. That night, he called a contact from years ago. They hadn't spoken in a decade. "I need a name," Malcolm said into the burner phone. "Who is this?" "You know who. Just listen." He gave the unit code, the agency, the pattern of abuse. Silence. Then, "You're out of your depth." "I know, but I'm in it anyway." Another pause. "I'll see what I can do." Malcolm hung up, burned the phone, flushed the SIM. Tasha watched from the hallway, arms folded. What happens next? Malcolm didn't look at her. "Whatever they do, I'll do worse." That night, 2 cars passed the house and didn't stop. The third one did. Malcolm was already waiting near the back window, in darkness. He watched as a man in plain clothes stepped out. No badge, no flashlight, no hesitation. The man approached the porch, glanced at the doorbell cam, and removed it in one swift motion. Malcolm smiled. Caught on infrared. The man left, but not before scratching something into the doorframe with a knife. Malcolm checked it later. A letter B. Tier B had begun, and they didn't know. Malcolm had already started Tier 0. Thursday, 11:43 p.m. Malcolm stepped out of his car in a downtown alley behind the county courthouse. In his jacket, a flash drive. In his pocket, a disposable phone, pre-programmed with 2 numbers. One rang to a legal oversight office he used to audit. The other, to a woman named Celine Park. He had never met her, but she was a compliance officer for internal justice procurement. One of the few who had refused clearance requests from halberd programs. He left the flash drive inside a weatherproof envelope, taped it behind a vent in the alley, exactly where the first number had been told to check. Then he walked away. No goodbye, no meeting, no expectations, just data. Tasha called as he pulled onto the freeway. "Are you safe?" "I don't know anymore." "I had another call. A blocked number." No one spoke. Malcolm gripped the wheel tighter. "They're watching, listening, pushing." She paused, then pushed back harder. He didn't answer, because he already had. At home, Malcolm opened a secure link. The flash drive's contents, copied to a separate, isolated machine. He added one new document. A signed affidavit, written in his name. Dated, with a detailed summary of everything since the night of the raid. It ended with one sentence. "If I disappear, these names do not." He encrypted it with a key phrase Tasha would recognize, the name of their unborn daughter. Then closed the terminal. He barely slept. At 4:17 a.m., a city substation experienced a power anomaly. At 4:19, the camera facing Malcolm's block went offline. At 4:22, the house alarm tripped. Malcolm was already out of bed. He moved silently, calmly. From a drawer, he pulled out a stun baton. Civilian grade. Legal. Barely. Downstairs, a shadow moved past the window. He didn't switch on the lights. Instead, he spoke clearly. "This is private property. You are being recorded. I am armed. Leave now." No answer. Then, a whisper from the porch. "You've made a mistake, Mr. Hayes." Malcolm took one step forward. "So have you." A loud thud. Then silence. Then footsteps, retreating fast into the night. Malcolm exhaled, slowly. He walked to the porch. The doorframe was scratched again. This time, not a B, but a number. 72. He didn't know what it meant, but something told him. It was a countdown. Friday, 6 a.m. Malcolm stood at the kitchen counter, staring at the scratched number on the paper he'd brought in from the porch. 72. Nothing else. No threats. No names. Just a number. A countdown. Tasha sat across from him, wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes swollen from lack of sleep. "Maybe it's nothing," she whispered. Malcolm didn't respond. His mind was already elsewhere. He opened his laptop, ran a time-based sweep on known halberd, 9 cases. He filtered by internal ID strings, by response windows, by incident closures. Then it clicked. 72 hours. That's how long it took for subjects flagged under Tier B to be either discredited, relocated, or erased. And he was down to 23. He stood, grabbed his keys. Tasha followed. Where are you going? I have to finish this. Malcolm, if something happens to you. He turned to her. Stepped close. If I stop now, something happens anyway. Outside, the sky was still gray. Empty streets. Too quiet. Malcolm drove across town to a courthouse annex, a place few people knew existed. Through a side entrance, he passed security with an old ID badge he'd never returned. Inside, a records division server node, where data backups were still pulled manually once a week. He slipped past two contractors on a smoke break. By 7:05 a.m., he was inside the server room. He plugged in his drive and uploaded everything. The raids, the footage, the internal memos, the field orders, the list of names. But he didn't just copy it. He tagged it with 3 duplicate backup pings, all scheduled to release to 3 different oversight bodies. Unless manually stopped. He set the timer. 22 hours. 57 minutes. If anything happened to him, the files would launch automatically. He left the courthouse without being seen. Back home, he placed a printed sheet of paper in the baby's empty crib. It was a letter. Not for the police. Not for the press. Just for Tasha. In it, he told her where every copy was. What to do if the lights went out again. What to say if someone knocked and wouldn't answer back. What their daughter's name really meant. Then he locked the front door and waited, because he knew they were coming. Saturday, 4:37 a.m. Malcolm sat in the dark, back straight, hands calm. His laptop was open, the countdown still ticking. 3 hours, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds. Tasha and the baby were already gone. He had sent them to a cousin's house 2 hours north, without saying why. He didn't need to. They'd lived this week together. She knew everything. He heard it before he saw it. The soft hum of tires, the slow approach of an unmarked SUV. Then another. Then a third. No sirens. No lights. They parked without urgency. 3 men stepped out. Suits. No uniforms. No names. Malcolm didn't move. They knocked once. Then twice. Then silence. He opened the door himself. The tallest one stepped forward. Mr. Hayes, we'd like to speak with you. Malcolm nodded slowly. Of course. They entered the living room. No weapons visible. But their stance said everything. The man in the center glanced at the laptop screen. Saw the countdown. You uploaded it. I did, Malcolm replied. 3 sites. 3 schedules. If I don't stop them manually, they go live. The agent nodded, as if confirming a diagnosis. You know this wasn't meant to get this far. It always gets this far, Malcolm said. Just not for people like me. A pause. Then the agent spoke again. What do you want? Malcolm met his eyes. Nothing. Excuse me? I don't want revenge. I don't want a check. I don't even want an apology. He leaned forward, voice low. I wanted to stop. The agent didn't blink. We can't erase what happened. No, Malcolm said. But you can make sure it never happens again. Silence. Then the agent reached into his coat. Malcolm tensed. But the man only pulled out a small black phone. We'll verify the deactivation. You'll delete the backups. This ends here. Malcolm shook his head. Not yet. Not until I see movement. Real movement. Internal flags. Pulled rosters. I want to watch this unit burn from the inside. The agent hesitated. That wasn't the deal. There is no deal. There's just a clock. He pointed to the screen. 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 33 seconds. The men exchanged glances. Then, the leader nodded once. Pulled out a second device. Sent a single message. A moment later, Malcolm's phone lit up. Unit Halberd, 9, suspended pending formal investigation. Malcolm smiled for the first time in days. He reached over, typed a string of code. The countdown stopped. That's all I needed. The men stood. You'll never speak of this again. Malcolm looked up at them, unafraid. I never planned to. I wasn't here to speak. He walked them to the door. They left without a word. The sky was starting to lighten. He closed the door, locked it, sat down at the table, and breathed. For the first time that week, without fear. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.